Well, on today's edition of Connect the World, we are highlighting a big moment for some smaller countries stepping up to help Ukraine. The Czech Republic is one of those nations that is pulling more than its weight, as it were. A recent report says that Prague has sent Soviet-licensed tanks and armoured vehicles to Ukraine, and that has sparked a furious warning from Moscow. And Prague's response, well, it's been a bit of a shrug, to be honest. Czech Foreign Minister Jan Lipavský joins me now live from the capital of Prague. Thanks for joining us, sir. Your country's been supplying a lot of military equipment to Ukraine since this invasion began. Earlier this month, you provided Soviet-era tanks, the first time that had happened from a NATO country. The Czech Republic, no military powerhouse. So why is it so important for you to be taking this strong position?
Hello, Becky. It is very important for us. And the reason is that Ukraine is fighting for its own survival. But if Putin's aggression would continue and Ukraine would fall, he would continue, and we have already been occupied by Russians once in 1968, and we don't want to repeat that.
Well, Russia's condemned your moves, warning the Czech Republic through a diplomatic letter against supplying other countries with weapons of Soviet origin. How did you respond to that letter?
We haven't responded. There is no legal basis for what they have claimed. There's no point to reply such request.
And do you expect to provide more military hardware as this new phase begins?
We are doing what we can. We are sending a lot of weapons. I would like to thank all other countries who are providing weapons: USA, Great Britain, Poland, other European countries. It is very important to provide Ukraine with any necessary means for them to survive and win over Russia in this horrific, barbaric war. Look what they are doing in Bucha. Look what they are doing in Mariupol.
My question was, will the Czech Republic provide more?
Yes, we will continue. We will continue.
Do you share Joe Biden's concern that the maintaining of unity amongst allies at this point is absolutely crucial?
I absolutely share it. My first concern is to have a unity on a level of the European Union, since 5 packages of sanctions already had been adopted. We are preparing the 6th package of sanctions. We need to get rid of our dependency on Russian oil and gas. So those are tasks which lies in front of us. So unity is very important, very important.
Yeah, and then the Czech Republic, of course, has historically gotten nearly 90% of its gas from Russia. Over the years, you have been trying to find other sources of energy. Other countries have not done that, quite frankly, and I'm thinking about the Germans first and foremost.
My government is now working on solution to that. I would like to see some European solution. It won't be easy, but we will make it. We will make it.
By when?
This is something we are now in the middle of that, and it's quite complicated debate. So there's no clear answer from my side right now.
The worry is that this issue of Russian gas could split what is otherwise a relatively still unified bloc. Does that concern you?
It is a concern. However, I would like to mention that Putin manipulated market with gas last autumn, and he wasn't able to disunite Europe. Europe was very united and has a united stand on Russia aggression against Ukraine, and I am very optimistic that we will be able to find a common solution again.
We've been talking about military hardware as well as these sanctions. Do you believe larger countries with stronger economies, such as Germany, for example, should be doing more with regard military hardware and into Ukraine, more aid, like the sort of work that you've been doing?
I would like to see that those countries would be doing more. On the other side, I understand that they have their own domestic situation. I have to respect that. But to see Germany sending significant amounts of weapons to Ukraine, that would help a lot, definitely.
Do you believe it's been talk just today about the possibility of a third country being involved in the evacuation of Mariupol? I'm sure you are well aware of what is going on there. This is a besieged port city, almost entirely ruined, with 120,000 people who need to get out. That would be a NATO member. If so, having a NATO member on the ground helping with an evacuation would be a game changer, would it not?
It would be a game changer, and I would like to save heroes of Mariupol, and I would like to see that we are able to help people of Mariupol. But any negotiation which to this day was done with Russia had not led to successful creating of humanitarian corridors or anything like that. So, but yes, if that would be possible, I would agree with that. We have to help those people.
And would the Czech Republic be prepared to be involved?
It matters what would be necessary to be given from the Czech side. Honestly, we don't have any real means that would be have to done by different countries. But yes, politically we are ready to support such thing.
Is it clear who would be involved at this point? Is there any detail on this plan?
No. I don't have any detail on that.
You're heading to Washington next week. You'll meet with Secretary of State Antony Blinken. What will your message be to the Foreign Secretary and his president?
Yes, I'm coming next week to DC to meet with my friend Tony Blinken, and I have two messages for him. First of all, we are your reliable partner in the Central Europe, and we are very much aligned on Ukraine and Russia threats. And the second message is, don't forget about China. We are very closely watching what China is doing on Russia aggressions against Ukraine, and they are not doing much. And would they start to helping Russia in any significant way, that would have severe consequences on the EU-Chinese relationship.
We're 57 odd days now into this war. From your perspective in the Czech Republic, how has this changed the European space?
We have realized that nothing is given, that the comfortable life is not guaranteed. You have to fight for your freedom and independence. And this is what the Czech society has learned.
It's good to have you on. Thank you very much indeed for giving us your time today. Let's speak again when you get back from the States. That is the Czech Republic's Foreign Minister. Thank you.